Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue paint-turned-writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, special guest, the Great Pearlo Wisdom. Welcome to the Hockey Writers, Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Hockey Writers, Inc. That's right, folks. We are here with another special guest. That's right. Oh, my gosh. Look at that. It's the Great Pearlo Wisdom is sitting in. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, buddy.
Oh, man.
It's been a while.
Man.
For this type of stuff. Yeah, for doing a show together.
I have been like pacing. I've been like, I couldn't wait to have you on here, man. I couldn't wait to have you on here. Look, big props and kudos to the writer extraordinaire who's catching rays and having fun and sun and drinks with umbrellas and so.
Nice.
Exactly. So we had to bring in, well, the next best thing, which is the Great Pearlo Wisdom. I mean, the great prognosticator. We had to bring him in. And guess what we're going to do, folks? We're going to talk all things Flyers because guess what happened? Oh, training camp.
Yeah, season starting.
I'm telling you what, we are knocking on the door to get this season rolling. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good when Jim Jackson goes, here we go, right? And tweets out the fact that the guys are practicing. Hey.
Yeah.
So for sure. So listen, Pearlo, why don't you tell the folks where they can follow you, where they can get all your great stuff, the Great Pearlo Wisdom Show and all that, and where they can follow you.
Yeah, the Pearlo Wisdom Show. We do it 3 to 5 weekdays in the afternoon. Killer. I'm loving it. It's turned into an interactive show where we get together and talk all different types of topics. And I take the information and I actually do videos on it. So you can be part of that. You can come in and be part of the community. It's a killer community of very well-versed and very intelligent hockey people, which are everywhere, that you can come in and be part of some great videos, some great frolic, as I like to say. And
there will be frolic. There will be frolic.
3 to 5, yeah, 3 to 5 Eastern, 5 weekdays, and you can get. I got a Twitter handle there, Pearlo's NHL POW. You can come on there. I like to throw some stuff on there every once in a while, and of course, SteelFlyers All Sports Network, www.SteelFlyers all sports all the time, right? That's
right. That's why Pearlo is part of the huge conglomeration of the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and that's why we had to have him step in here because he's the Great Pearlo. So we couldn't not have him in here. Last week we had the great Isaiah from O&B Puck, and man, that was great. We talked a lot about the rookie camp and how that went. And things of that nature. And we were all really pleased with, look, everybody, it's like when you get to football season, right? And everybody's running around with a helmet and shorts, right? Everybody looks good in helmets and shorts, right? Everybody looks good in rookie camp, right? Because you're not really hitting anybody. You're not really, it's not really game speed. It's not really, you know what I mean? You're not trying to take people's heads off or anything like that,
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, yeah. These are people starting out their career. You gotta be respecting each other even though you're competing for a spot. But then you're getting loosened up too. Not really a time to be smacking each other around. You're just getting used to getting on the ice again in competition and stuff.
Exactly. Plus, there was a couple of guys that had been there before. that had gone that route before, who've been invited on that route as well before too. So, but now since the Flyers have taken on full-on training camp, started on September 23rd. That's Thursday, is when camp started. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on this episode of the show with you, because there's a lot of storylines I think that are coming into this season that I really want to get your opinions on. I really want to get your take on. Okay. And I'm very interested to see what you think about this, because I've seen like our great friend and awesome friend of the show, Off the Wall Hockey, has done his Philadelphia Flyers season preview. That was awesome. By the way, you got to go check out Off the Wall Hockey from John. John does a phenomenal job, man. You got to check him out for sure. But he did his season preview. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to be interested to see how you feel about the breakdown of the Flyers. So let's get right into it. And one of the things that I want to talk about are the top 2 stories of training camp for this year going into the 2021 season, or 21-22 season. Okay. My top 2 stories are, number 1 story are Carter Hart and Martin Jones. Okay. Now let's start off with the other goalie. I know that there's been a lot of flack and feedback on Martin Jones joining the Flyers as a backup goaltender. Okay. And I'm very interested to hear what you feel about Martin Jones signing at a 1-year deal to come here to the Flyers and be a backup goaltender.
It's interesting. I don't know what was available. I do know that there's a goaltender coach in Philadelphia that he's very familiar with. So that could be something. But flat out, he's the worst number 1 goaltender the last 3 years, maybe, besides Carter Hutton. So he has been very bad. It's been a downhill slide for Jones. Now, that being said, he's got all the tools. He's got the body type. You know, when he has played well, he's looked fantastic. It's been a small portion size of when he's looked fantastic. But the fact of the matter is he still can look fantastic. So this goaltender coach probably is practically putting his career on the line to say, should bring Jones in here, and I bet you I can get him back in at least. Remember, like you said, we're talking about backup shape here. We're not talking about a number 1 anymore. So I don't know, maybe mentally it might be easier for him to think about himself as a backup rather than a number 1. Maybe that's what Jones should have always been. And that's the way they're looking at it here. Like, this is an opportunity for him to take the pressure off, to be able to put his mindset towards being ready for a game when it needs to be done, rather than having this big contract and the pressure of the weight of a team on his shoulders all the time, especially the San Jose Sharks, who have never really been known to be a strong defensive team. So, or team the last couple of years, period, team in general, but especially like never really was a strong defensive team. And except for when McClellan was there, they were a great possession team and stuff like that. But the last 4 or 5 years. So my initial thought was like what everybody else did. Oh, no, not Jones. Look at his numbers. No. But I'm going to give a little bit of, got to look at things a little bit deeper and say what was available, what could they get, and also how much is this goalie coach's input saying, look, I really think that I can get him into at least a backup type role and he'll do well. So it's very possible he could end up on a 1 year. Is it worth the shot? I suppose. I just think it's a little difficult when Carter Hart struggled as much. You know what this really tells me? I think they really, 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 really think Carter Hart's going to crush it. I think they're totally confident in that. I think Philadelphia's totally confident in that. Or otherwise, they wouldn't do this.
Okay, so let's tackle the first part of what you said, because that in and of itself was a completely different viewpoint from all the narrative that I've been hearing about Jones.
Okay.
And that is this, the fact that he's coming in to be a backup, that he's not, that he doesn't have that weight of, being the number one guy and, oh my gosh, I have to be ready every night.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And now he's also got a familiar goalie coach that he's had success with in the past, who's known him in a successful way. I mean, yeah, you look at his numbers when he played for San Jose, and then you look at San Jose and go, ooh, okay. Ooh, it would have been hard to put, anybody in that situation and expect them to be. You could have probably have dropped Vasilevsky in there or Fleury or somebody in there like that. You would think, right?
Oh yeah, but they would look good while they're doing. Jones didn't look good.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
That's the problem.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean. So now he's not the number one guy, and you know what? I haven't seen anybody talk about it like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, because everybody's going, oh man, look at his numbers. He's horrible, because that's all they look at. Right? Yeah. They just look at the numbers and go, man, dude, why are you bringing this guy in? And then everybody says, well, San Jose wasn't that good. Okay.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
All those things are true, and all those things are good things to point out. All I'm trying to say is that you added another layer to it by saying that it's a relief for Jones. He's got a smaller contract. It's a 1-year kind of try it deal. Hey, come to Philadelphia, see if you can be a backup goalie. Oh, right. we got your old coach here. Hey, come and have a couple of cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah, exactly. And money can sometimes be a prison of the mind, where you're making a certain amount of money that it just sort of snowballs. Things don't go well, and then all of a sudden you feel bad about yourself. Yeah. San Jose, I don't know. See, I have the opportunity to talk to fans all over the place because I'm doing all the teams, right? And I talk to the fans a lot. San Jose fans, believe it, San Jose fans are like Philadelphia Flyers fans, man.
They're learned.
They're learned, but they're also harsh.
Okay.
They're not they love their team, but they're not afraid to say, Jones, you're a bum, dude. Like, boo.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know what personality Jones has, but I'm guessing here, and I wouldn't be surprised that what's the name of the goaltending coach? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh no, I don't. I don't.
I always forget.
Yeah,
it,
but
3 or 4 times.
It's the same. But yeah, he's had this goalie coach in the past.
And I know he's watching right now, so I apologize.
Right, and we apologize. I'm sorry. And unfortunately, we don't have our crack research staff on it right now.
No.
You know what I mean?
They're out for lunch.
But
I wouldn't be surprised if he even said, you know what, I always thought he was going to be a backup. He just, there's certain personalities that are great backups. McElhinney was a good example. He's, a little old now, didn't do well in Tampa, but he never could be a number one, and everybody said he just had the personality of a backup. And Tim Dillabaugh, okay.
Tim Dillabaugh is the Flyers.
They went and got him early too, so it sounds like to me like Tim called him up and said, "Look, you want
Kim? Kim.
Yeah. I can get him. I think he could be a great backup. Because they got him early, right? They got him early. They didn't really wait around.
Actually, they kind of did, man. He was like one of the last things that they. I mean, he wasn't one of the first things that they signed. He wasn't one of the first players that they signed.
Yeah, Philadelphia went fat. They grabbed people, but there was other goaltenders available.
So he did, yeah, right. That's what I'm going to get. That's what exactly I was going to get into here too, because if you look at somebody else that was potentially available at the time was Holtby.
Yeah.
Who basically signed the same deal for the team that he went to. Yeah. But see, Holtby has way more potential to be a number one.
Yeah.
Than Jones.
I'll tell you right now, I'd take Jones over Holtby in a heartbeat.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that Holtby has more of a chance to be a number one starting goaltender more so than Jones. And so that's why I think they went with Jones, because of Kim Dillenbaugh, now that we know who he is, the goalie coach for the Philadelphia Flyers, right? Kim Dillenbaugh. Right. And the fact that he was able to not make the big giant money, but still make some pretty decent money and come in and be a backup.
Yeah, I like his. I think Joe. I'm not a Holtby attitude fan. I don't like his attitude. I don't think that'd be good for Carter Hart at all. But there was other goaltenders available as well that they could have went down to. But
true, but
I think they were in on Jones pretty quick. I just think that Kim thought that right away when they said, he's like, yes, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. This is a big step for Kim. Okay. He really, he's taking a responsibility here. That's his career is big. If you're going to jump into something like this, this is a big thing. So he's got to be pretty confident that.
Well, it's not just for Jones, because of Carter Hart. Because we haven't even talked about Carter Hart yet, but that would be that's a good way to put it. It's definitely putting your coaching career on the line. To say, yeah, sure, you can bring this guy in here, and I'll be able to work with him or do whatever the case is. You know what I mean? All right, well. Okay, so I really like that take on Jones. Honestly, it's like what we were talking about, and I'm going to say this about a lot of players, especially this upcoming season. I'm going to pretend like we're from Missouri and it's the show me state. So I'm going to have to wait for Jones to show me, unfortunately. Here's basically the bottom line for Jones, right? Jones is going to have to be able to come in and play 30 maybe games, 35 games, maybe, right? He's going to have to play some back-to-backs against Pittsburgh, Boston, Islanders, the tough games that Philadelphia is going to have those back-to-backs with. He's going to have to play them.
Yeah, that's and that's going to be the thing. Is he going to be more mentally prepared? Because from what I saw in San Jose, it was a mental thing. Now, when they first made this deal, the other thing was he had the goalie whisperer working with him, Nabokov, and that's pretty darn good goaltender coach right there that has worked with, that helped out pretty much everything he's touched, and he couldn't get anything out of Jones.
Right.
That was my big concern, really. But that was as a number one goaltender.
Number one goalie. Yeah, the main man.
So something tells me this, and who knows? I don't know anything about Kim. He could be the goalie whisperer. This is his first gig in the show. Right, so he's putting it on the line right here, man. Coming from the goalie whisperer Nabokov, and he's going, I can do this. So that's huge, man. That's huge.
Let's take a look here. Let's see here. We'll have to go back to the.
I'm almost positive this is his first time in the show.
Well, he comes to the Flyers from the Kings.
Did he? Was it
8 seasons there with the Kings as a goaltender development role for the club?
Right. Not the head, not the coach though. He's like in a minor role with the LA Kings. Right? And
then he worked with the goaltenders at the Monarchs as well? That's their AHL, right?
Yeah, AHL. Yeah, that was mostly what he did. He worked with the AHL and in between and helped out a lot of that. This is his first big show. He's the guy.
As the head goaltending
coach.
Yeah.
That's right. Where everything is on him here now.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a good example. I mean, he worked with the Monarchs, so that means he worked with Peterson, So that looks good. Peterson's looking pretty fantastic. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Peterson is what Jones should be. They have the same kind of stature. They have the same.
And exactly. And the other thing, too, is Jones is not that old.
No, he's still, what's he, 20, is he 29?
Something like that. 28, 29. He might even be 30. He might even be 31. Who cares? He's still way younger than Elliott.
He's not old. No.
That's what I mean.
He's younger than Elliott. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean.
31.
All right. So he's 31. He's still got a couple of years.
Still got some good years left.
Exactly. As a backup or mentor type of goalie, whatever. Great. I like it.
A lot of goaltenders are number ones until they're 31 or so, and then they're backups for the rest of.
I mean, that's just the way that's just the way it is, All right. So we've talked about Martin Jones, and this is probably the most time that anybody's talked about Martin Jones, period. And the reason why I wanted to get this out here is because I wanted your take on what you felt about Martin Jones. And I'm going to have to say this. I mirror pretty much most of everything that you say as far as how I feel about this player. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those guys where, you know what? Okay, you get a shot until you look like garbage. And then if you look like garbage and you can turn it around and you can play well and you can play through the ugliness, cool. If you can't, well, it's been a slice. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's really the case. It has been, but I mean, it's going to be fairly huge for Martin to make it here. Help Carter Hart out this year.
I agree, and I think that's what's going to happen too. I think this is going to be something potentially that, maybe you're not necessarily looking forward to happening, but maybe it does happen in spite of it. Where him and Carter Hart kind of hit it off because now they're both working under the same goalie coach, where now this is the second year now or third year, fourth year now with this same goalie coach for Carter Hart. And now they're bringing in Jones, and he's been with him in the past. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, he's got all his guys together now. You know what you see what I'm saying? So yeah. Maybe. Well, we'll see. That's kind of what I'm thinking, maybe hoping. This is what I want to talk about now is this. Carter Hart.
All right.
Oh. Do you ever remember that movie, Caddyshack?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And do you remember, I think his name is Ted Knight. And he played the judge in the movie. Right. And he was playing a golf game against Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Right? And he had this special putter.
Yeah.
Right? And he, Billy. And he would talk to the putter,
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about Carter Hart right now. Like Chuck just pulled Billy out of the golf bag, his special putter. Oh, Carter Hart. Because there's even more pressure on Carter Hart's shoulders this year than there has been in the last 2 years.
Well, I mean, if it couldn't be more evident that if Carter Hart isn't get back to where it needs to be, that the team's in trouble.
If Martin Jones plays more than 40-odd games, that's not boding well as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But I'm encouraged. I'm not trying to bring this down or sound ominous or whatever. But I made that reference to the movie because he pulled that club out, and it was like his best club. It was his favorite club. It was the club that won things for him. Right? So I feel like Carter Hart can be that goalie. We've seen him do it.
Absolutely.
He's had an extra long off season, right? He's had time away.
Yeah.
And all accounts that I've seen of him in training camp today have been impressive. He's been in the area. He's been training. You know what I mean? So he's done some things differently this year than he's done in the past. So has he matured? Do you think he's going to be able to be a better goaltender this year? I mean, what do you think about this? What is your take on Carter Hart?
Well, there's been a few things that have kind of come up since this. Let's face it, he imploded. Now, was that Philadelphia? Did Philadelphia have a bad defense? Sure, but we were just talking. You can see goaltenders play on bad teams. Linus Olmark, good example. Buffalo was a bad team. Everybody said Linus Olmark looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, but he looks fantastic because he looked good. Carter Hart did not look good.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm hearing is apparently, and I didn't know this, or I even have a hard time believing it, is that he's highly superstitious. That he has like routinary things that he must do, and it throws him off and stuff like that. Then we had an AV who came right out and said that he has to learn to work harder. AV said it himself that he has its work ethic is an aspect of it. Now, does that mean he's lazy? Absolutely not. It doesn't. What it is we're in the NHL now. It's a different type of work ethic. It's a different type of putting yourself in a different place. Taking some time off from here, this is just my guess. Part of it is to take the mind off of the exterior things that can block a person from doing, like, sometimes a goaltender or a person can get in a place where they feel like if they keep their environment in one spot, then they can be at their best. As a number one goaltender, that's not likely going to happen. And I think it's possible with Carter Hart that all of that, he was putting way too much on to something that isn't why he's good. Carter Hart is good because Carter Hart is good, not because the tape was done some way or all the other things.
He ate the same spaghetti dinner
or whatever it is that it can be. Carter Hart forgot how good he is.
Yeah.
And you know what? Going through COVID, all of those routinary things were not there. You're going into hotel rooms, you're not talking to the same people, you're not doing the same things, all of those sort of things like that. And he wasn't prepared for it. And I think I've seen it with goaltenders that do things like that. And things go awry and they fall apart. That's something that has to be unmended because Carter Hart is good because Carter Hart is good. And I think that is what they gave him some time off. And that, I bet you something of that was stress to Carter Hart. You're not good because your sticks were leaning up there that way. You're not good because whatever. You're good because Carter Hart's amazing. So let's work on Carter Hart's amazing and not Carter Hart's amazing because of something. Because it's not because of something. Get it in your head, you're amazing. You don't need to worry about all this stuff.
So, okay. I get what you're saying.
I could be totally off on that.
No, I get what you're saying but then again, you look at somebody like, I'm not trying to compare Carter Hart by any stretch of the word to Jerry Rice or Walter Payton or anybody like that, but you look at what they did as far as how they worked. Right. And there was nobody that ever went to them and said, you guys are lazy or you need to work harder. Right. You see what I'm saying? So,
are you talking about that they were not the hardest workers in the world?
No, I'm saying that they were. I'm saying that they were the hardest workers.
Yes. And AV said that there's a work ethic involved, and that kind of can happen with somebody who everything is kind of just working. All of these things seem to be working, and you're putting your faith into something that actually isn't real, but you're so good it doesn't matter. And when it starts to fall apart, it really falls apart.
Yeah, because you feel that's what's going on. That's why you're good. You don't believe that it's actually the fact that you're a pretty dang good goalie.
You kind of forget. You get so used to being, I guess, a person, or I think he got so used to being good that he started adding all of these things into it. And you know what I'm saying? And forgetting the fact that it's because he is so good that is why he was doing as well as he was. And wasn't maybe listening as much to the work ethic things that they were probably saying, whatever those may be. AV's a smart guy. He's been around long enough. He knows when somebody has to work at his game more instead of relying on things or just plain talent for that matter. Work ethic is part of it.
See, I don't think he was relying on the talent. I think he was more relying on the fact that, he woke up at 6 o'clock that morning. He had a run. He came home, had a shower. He put on the blue flip-flops because it was a home game.
Yeah. It's a way. It's a way to keep that a goaltender or will use these things to say that I'm keeping focused, but it can turn into this is the reason why I'm whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's a balance there. There's some people that like to do routinary things and it's fine, but they can adjust if necessary. But I don't think it turned into a superstition that was kind of an anchor on him a little bit.
I think he's one of those goaltenders that needs to put the work in to remain good.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just being able to just show up and do it. I'm not saying that's what he does. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that he needs to be that guy that's out there, that extra 45 minutes, or that he's there that extra hour beforehand, or, whatever the case is, he's trying to do that work to be better at his craft.
That's right. Put as much work into you getting better as your craft as you have put into being the same place at the right time and all the things you've done. You put your mind towards.
Because gosh, if you did that,
you can fall apart, right? And I think he'll do that.
If he turns that into, doing that, lifting weights and doing drills and stuff like that, the sky's the limit for him. I still think we have not seen the best of Carter Hart yet.
And I still say that them getting Jones and taking a kind of gamble in this way is more to me them saying, we're not worried about Carter. In other words, they've seen the change in Carter where he has said, okay, I'll go with what you're saying. And he's doing it. Yeah. And I think they're fully confident he's going to crush it this year. I really do.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I have to be honest with you. That's why I feel there's more pressure on him this year than there ever has been, just because of what happened last year. He pretty much has to come out and I'm not trying to, I know the guy's already got a lot of pressure on him already, but to be honest with you, as a number one goaltender, you pretty much need to come out and just dominate the first 18 games.
Yeah, he's never been one that I saw. Like I say, he's from Sherwood Park here. I've watched a lot of Carter Hart. The one thing I said from him, even his athleticism aside, which is amazing, but the most amazing part of Carter Hart all the time is he never seemed to look like he was having problems with pressure. So
yeah,
I'm not really concerned about that so much. I think that it's like I said, when things started going south, he started reaching for the wrong things as the problem to lean on and forget about the fact that, hey, you know what, Carter Hart, you are amazing. You are an amazing. You don't need all the rest of this stuff. Just work hard and remember how amazing you are. And kind of let all these other things go, because the exterior things are going to change in your life and in life and period and stuff like that. So try to mentally remove yourself from those things and remember how great you are, and maybe the frustration, because he looked frustrated. Let's face it.
That would be an understatement, I would say. Here's another thing too, that most people really overlook, and one thing that we haven't even mentioned either. How old's Carter Hart?
Just a kid. That's right.
I mean, what were you doing when you were his age? You were not the number one goaltender for the Philadelphia Flyers, were you? No.
I don't.
Yeah.
Let's just say I probably don't remember too much about what I was doing.
But you get what I'm trying to say, though, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So here's a guy who is now the number one goaltender and got it fairly early on in his career. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't see any time in the AHL. He went right from juniors right to the bigs. You know what I mean? He didn't see any time down. I mean, he saw what, half a season, and then a little, whatever they called it last year for him to come back up, maintenance or whatever, Yeah. So, but that's it. That's the only really AHL time he's had.
Well, it was the danger, and that's the reason why Hextall didn't want to push him in so fast. But I don't think it's going to ruin him. But I do think that it's common, for sure, no doubt about it. No matter how good you are, for a goaltender to have to make some adjustments and go through frustrations and all of those sort of things.
I'm with you. So you feel that the reason why the Flyers went out and got Martin Jones was because they feel that Carter Hart is the ship's righted and he's going to be all right. And
I think they're seeing indications that Carter Hart has changed the way his thought processes, the way they want to see it. And as long as he is, I believe Carter Hart will absolutely crush this year. And all the little holes that we might see in the rest of the lineup won't matter. That's what great goaltending like Carter Hart can be does. It removes holes in your lineup like that.
Well, yeah, because they fill in the holes. You know what I mean? They make the saves, they make the plays, they do the things that prevent those holes from being damaging to your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all right. I like that take. I like that take on Carter Hart. I like that take on Martin Jones. I really, really like that. The other major story line that's going into this year is there's a couple of injuries that we need to talk about as well too, and those injuries are to Kevin Hayes, and another one too is Wade Allison, and another one is Sam Moran.
Yeah,
everybody's talking about Kevin Hayes. Okay, yeah, all right, but what nobody's really talking about is Wade Allison and Sam Moran. Everybody, now we all heard the great Riley Cote bring to light that Sam Moran did not have a crushed knee and that he just had some loose bodies removed, which when you've had a knee surgery that he's had, where he's had ACLs on both knees.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so sometimes scar tissue builds up, and then that's what those loose bodies are. That's what they're talking about when they talk about loose bodies. And sometimes that scar tissue breaks away. Okay, well, it's never a good thing to have little bits and chunks floating around in an area that's supposed to be nice and smooth. Right? So that when you move your joint, it goes nice and smooth over the joint. So when you got those loose bodies in there, that prevents that joint from moving in a nice and smooth manner. So what they mean by removing loose bodies, that's usually, look, I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the word. I've just had 30 operations on one side. You know what I mean? So, but usually that's what they mean by removing loose bodies is chunks of tissue that have broken away or scar tissue or things of that nature. And you don't want that stuff floating around because it could get lodged in between a joint and then lock the joint. Right. And that's never a good thing either. You know what I mean? And that's very painful as well too. So that's what's going on with Sam Moran. Wade Allison, you said was
High ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain. Okay.
And I don't like AV. Yeah, basically AV said it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. When they say undetermined, that usually means it's going to be, like, I've heard stuff like 3 weeks. So I find that highly unlikely. High ankle sprains.
Well, there's grades of high ankle sprains, right? So they're depending on the severity of his high ankle sprain and where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is grade undetermined, which is never good.
Okay. Yeah. Well then, all right. Yeah, that's usually.
It's just very such an unfortunate time for him. This would have been better to happen in the middle of the year for him.
Or last year.
Yeah, but well.
It is what it is.
That's the one that hurts. I think the most thing that hurts with me about it is I was looking so forward to see Allison in the lineup and that type. We were talking about this before. He's exactly what we want in our lineup right now. Exactly. And
because he's a shoot first guy.
Shoot first, big, solid, plays
solid guy. Gets into the dirty areas, goes to the corners.
He's a Philadelphia Flyer.
Right.
This is the reason why I love Philadelphia Flyers. This is what you and I both want. We want a whole team of Allisons and a couple of maybe a couple
Sam Morans thrown in.
Maybe a skilled player here and there, but you know what I'm saying? But we want to see. I mean, not that he's not skilled. He has skill. There's no doubt about that. Farabees, Allisons. This is what we grew up on. This is what the Philadelphia Flyers we grew up on, right?
Very much impressed with Joel Farabee as well, too. Got to throw that out there.
I just love that guy.
I know
that guy ever since he came in the league.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what his ceiling is. It's going to keep on going up and up. I would not be surprised if we see 40 goals out of him, if not this year, but soon, somewhere along the line here. I would not be surprised at all. That guy has got.
I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe 30.
I wouldn't be
sooner. I would see 30 sooner than 40
this year.
You got 20 last year.
I really think he can pop
in 50 I think he played 50 games. I think he missed a couple.
That's a 30-goal pace or close.
Right.
And he's a year older, he's a year bigger, and he's a year stronger, and
a year richer.
I just absolutely love his game. I'm totally infatuated with the guy.
I am with you on that one. I am with you on that one for sure. All right, so now we did talk about Wade Allison. That we feel is a blow. The Kevin Hayes injury, where he's going to be out, I think for the first month or so.
Yeah.
Right. Is
3 weeks to a month there. Yeah.
Okay, well, so that puts him
10 games, 10, 11 games.
So that's the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 10 games, something like that.
All right, that's an ugly piece to me to be missing, but I'm not as. I don't know about you, but I'm not as. I mean, I'm taking solace in the fact that there's a lot of guys now on the Flyers where I'm not as worried about Kevin Hayes being out for the first 10 games. Yes, it's a blow. Yes, it stinks that one of our better offensive type players is going to be sidelined, but
I think we're more comfortable with the fact that we have a Frost that's 20 pounds heavier and much more prepared to be an NHL player. I think that helps an awful lot. One positive I like to take from it, to tell you the honest truth, it's going to sound like a weird positive, but that type of injury, he played through that last year. That's not something that just pops up out of nowhere. This is something that he's been going on. That explains a lot from last year, because if you take out Kevin Hayes from that last year's lineup, and you didn't because he played through it, but the difficulty of realizing that a player of Hayes is not going to be able to be what he needs to be when you really have nothing else to throw in there. It can be very defeating on the mindset of people, of players, of young players especially, that are going through COVID that need to make this up, and they're looking at it going, we can't do anything about this. So it kind of explains even more the difficulties that the Flyers had last year, which case, this is where I say the optimism for me is there's less of that this year. Now, even if it's only 10 games, he's going to be healthy, and when he comes back, we know we can get the haze of 2 years ago.
When he first came to the Flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So just get better, like
healthy.
Just get better.
Just get healthy.
Don't worry about, like, I couldn't imagine. I never did it, but I played with people with these abdominal things, and like they couldn't play at all. Like they would come in going, dude, I feel like somebody like punched me in the stomach 2 minutes ago forever,
Yeah, like they keep doing it. Like they just keep punching me there. You know what I mean? Like it's not stopping.
And this guy's getting up and playing like
yeah,
crazy,
I mean
what NHL players do.
Exactly. And so, but all right. The Sam Moran, I think, as well too. I think it's not necessarily a good thing, but the fact that it's not a major issue, I think, is a thing that we can look forward to as well for Sam Moran. I don't really know how he was going to fit in with all the folks that were brought in as well. Yeah. So I'm not really sure about how that's going to all work, but this is all.
Honest truth, I think he was a waiver guy. He was probably going to be picked up on waivers.
Yeah.
I think it was about time that he had an opportunity somewhere else, Arizona, something like that, where he can really work on his game and not have to worry about trying to beat somebody out. Just get a game in. He's got to find a game that he can do without 100% knees for the rest of his career, and that's going to be a hard thing to do in that Flyers lineup now. So
yeah, it is. So all right, well, that kind of leads us into the last little part here that I want to talk about, and that is the fact that the Flyers have had a very large turnaround, a lot of additions, a lot of subtractions, a lot of guys have come and gone in this lineup in this past off season. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's a lot of new faces for this team coming into camp this year. And I'm interested to hear what your take is on some of these new faces that are coming into camp. Elias. I can say his name, really. I can say his name, Ryan Ellis. Right, Cam Atkins. Ristolainen, right? Ristolainen coming in. Yandel's coming in. There's all these guys now coming in. That Thompson's coming in. I mean, a lot of vets coming in. A lot of guys that wore the letter on their sweater. You know what I mean? I'm very interested to hear what your take is on all these additions that the Flyers have had as far as these veteran leadership type guys.
Well, one thing that the Philadelphia Flyers really wanted to work on, obviously, to start from last year, was to change the energy of the team. That team had a poor energy last year.
And the culture.
Well, that's the same thing. Culture,
okay,
energy.
Right. Okay,
you change the culture, you change the energy, right? Buffalo's doing it right now, and all of this, and they've really got to tiptoe through a big mess, a much bigger mess there. But we still have, it here. So Voracek for Atkinson. Atkinson is a guy who's a very positive person who is, in his own words, very loyal. But the changes in Columbus just can wear on any human being. And, Panarin leaving, the Dubois situation, there's been a ton of drama go on in that organization. And this, to me, gives him an opportunity to be the Cam Atkinson he always was, and to come in with a different energy, bring a different energy. This is a guy that's coming from his. You think your situation was rough, dude. You got nothing. You had one bad year. We lost Panarin, we lost Duchesne, we lost this, we lost that over Columbus. And I just want a brand new start for a team that looks like they can win a cup. And he believes Philadelphia can win a cup. And that's what we need right now, is a guy that thinks that. And like you said, what does he do first? Shoot. He's a shoot first guy. Yeah. So he scored 35 to 40 goals one time in his career. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but whenever I watched him play, I never thought of a guy who's small, really. He's pretty bulky for 5'8".
Well, he plays it's like when you looked at Mark Recchi, you never really thought Mark Recchi was only 5'8".
Yeah.
Right? You never looked at him and went, wow, he's only 5'8".
And that was generous, by the way.
Yeah, that was generous. Right? That was generous, right? But he played a much bigger game because he had a thicker body.
Yeah.
He was able to handle taking some of those hits and giving some of those hits as well, too.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So that's what it takes a very special player to be that diminutive and still be able to play like a bigger player or play as a bigger player or come across as a bigger player.
He's 175. That's pretty good. That's, he's got his shot is awesome.
So
I've heard a lot of people saying that he's not going to be able to play a lot of minutes because of his size. I'm not buying that. He's only 32 years old. I think he'll be fine. He was fine in Columbus when he was great.
Yeah.
It was just been very difficult to be a Columbus Blue Jacket for the last little while. That's all.
Here's the thing that I haven't heard anybody else say either, and I want to say this. They brought Chuck, what I mean by Chuck, and by the way, just to make sure we're all clear on things, I ate a lot of crow because I was overly critical of Mr. Fletcher from last year to this year. And the amount of change that's happened, I have to say I've eaten a lot of crow. And I have to say that, all right, I've been impressed with what he's done so far. A couple things he's kind of tripped over a little bit, but being a general manager is not a perfect job, and you can't always do everything perfectly, and you're gonna stumble on some things. So, all right, the good is outweighing the bad so far. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the more I think about it, I don't know if it's the Flyer fan talking it into me, but the more I think about it, and the more I can see that things could work out. I see some of the reasonings why he was doing what he was doing. And like I said, Cam Atkinson's going to bring a new, fresh energy into this. Like, sometimes a team needs to be reminded that they are actually a lot better off than this is a guy who's coming in going, like, I'm so excited to be here. That there's something to that.
Same thing with Ristolainen too. He's been really excited to be here. That's the one thing that nobody really looks at. When you get a player that's been on a team that's not been really good for very long, and they finally come to a team that is winning, right? And you get that outsider's perspective of what an outsider looks at the Flyers organization and goes, man, I really want to play here because I think you guys have a good this, a good that, a blah, 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 blah. Here we sit as analysts, fans, whatever, and all we do is complain about, oh, man, Chucky didn't do this. Oh, Chucky didn't do that. Oh, this team can't this, blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying, right? Mm-hmm. So it takes a guy like an Atkinson come in and go, really excited, really can't wait to play for this team. Look at what you guys have, blah, 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 to go, hey, that guy's right. We actually do have a pretty darn good team, and we actually do have this and that and everything else. Now, can these guys who are now AV guys, right? Chuck went out and got AV guys that he's had experience with in Yandle, right? He's even brought in coaches that he's had experience with before, right? So now this is more of an AV team now than it's ever been. So there really should not be any more excuses, right?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't call them excuses, but I'll finish off the rest of them. Ryan Ellis is also coming from a situation where he's sort of being saved from. Nashville was going to be going in a rebuild mode for sure. And he never did get to really get a cup or chance or a lot of stuff like that. It's been an organization that has struggled for quite a while for the most part. And, this is also like an opportunity for him he sees a team that is a cup winner. So that brings that energy and a lot of experience and just a solid all around. I just love Ryan Ellis. He hasn't been the same since his knee injury, but he's still very, very good. And then the Rasmus Ristolainen one, I was critical to start off with because I've watched Rasmus Ristolainen run around and chase the puck or, pinch when you're not supposed to and so much. But here's the thing. The more I thought about it, it's a risk because you're going to have to give this guy a qualifying offer next year at almost $6 million, right? Where are you going to find a 6'4", 220-pound guy that can shoot like the wind and skate like Ristolainen that has those tools?
And be a top 4 defenseman.
If he can. That's the thing. But he has the tools. 6'4", 220, dude.
You don't have to convince me. All right.
And the guy can skate like the wind, and he's got a killer shot. He just has to get it in his head when to pinch, when to be aggressive, all of those sort of things like that, which does take a lot of time. But
especially defensemen. But you know what? To your point, I feel that he was in a bad situation in Buffalo. He was forced to be the number one guy. He was forced to be the guy that did everything on defense. And clearly it's like what Philadelphia tried to do with Provorov last year. They tried to make Provorov be the number one defensive guy for everything, and that's just not Provorov's game. I'm sorry, it's not.
Look at it this way. And this actually just came to me today as I was discussing it elsewhere. When a player is put in the situation like you did, a little too young to be a number one, whatever those case may be, this is a reason why you develop guys and you don't bring them up like this and stuff like that, so they don't get these this inclination. What does a player end up doing? They try to do too much.
Yep.
If Ristolainen can just simplify his game, play like a Braun to start off with, just very, very simple. Get the puck, move it over there. Don't worry about skating it out too much yet. All that kind of stuff like that, and we'll work as out as you go. Because just the fact that he doesn't have to be the guy may stop this aggressive, got to stop everything type of guy. You've heard it already, how he is one of those gung-ho, super excited, adrenaline almost junkie kind of guy, just like, well, that's wonderful because it's hard to teach, but it also can be very difficult if you don't harness it. And Buffalo never
pointed it in the right direction.
Never learned to harness it very well with him. How fast he can pick it up is what I'm concerned about. I don't think this year. I think this year is going to be a little bit of still a little bit of a struggle. But if you can see a significant improvement in those areas, he's worth
keeping
$6-7 million down the road.
I'm with you. All right, I'm with you. Okay. Now the last thing I want to talk about here is a couple of these guys now, because owing to the nature of the injuries that have happened and things of that nature, and owing to some of the younger players that are coming up through, right? So we talked about it before, Frost and York and Zamula. Like, these guys have a chance. More so Frost than any of them, right? Because Frost is coming off his shoulder surgery and injury and everything like that. And we all have seen the reports that he's heavier and bulked up and, has done the right things, like what one of our favorite players, Joel, did the previous summer, where he bulked up, put on 12, 15 pounds, right? So Frost has done the same. So what do you think, man? Do you think Frost is going to make the team? What do you think about Cam York? Do you think he's going to be, you know what I mean? We talked about these guys a little bit beforehand, but What do you think? Any chance of any of these guys making the club out of training camp?
I'm finding it funny that people are not talking about York so much here. Every time I see York, he's 100 times further than I thought he would ever be.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, he's like, "What the? Who is that? That's York?"
Yeah.
Like, are you freaking kidding me right now?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I personally, from what I've seen up until now, watch him prove me wrong now, but I doubt it. I think he makes the roster this year. I think he makes the. I think he boots Yandel right on the bench. I think he does it. And by the middle of the year, if he progresses like I've seen him progress, I think he strips Sanheim's spot.
That's what I was thinking, more of that. I was thinking more.
I saw you. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was thinking more of him taking the Sanheim spot than Yandel's spot.
Sanheim's better than Yandel at the moment. I'm sorry, you're not going to be too impressed with Yandel.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but I'm only looking at Yandel for his streak, and then that's it. Right? I'm not really counting on him past 35 games or whatever his streak is. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why my philosophy is this. Okay. And this is why I kind of wanted to see what your thought was on this. My philosophy is this with York. I think Cam York plays the first 35 games down with the Lehigh Phantoms. And I think you keep him down there for those games and you put him as the number one guy. You make him be the number one D guy. You put him in every situation. Yeah. Power play, penalty kill, defensive zone draws, offensive zone draws, 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, whatever. Do it. Give it to him. Throw it at him. See how he handles it.
I don't think you'd have to throw it at him.
I understand that.
I think he would absolutely crush the AHL if he did that. I swear to God. I don't care about Yandel's 35 games.
I don't either.
I don't care.
I don't either.
If he can't make it, and York is what I think he's going to be, sorry, Mr. Yandel, you're going on waivers. You can play somebody else for a while. Right. If that's what you want, is your 35 games. Now, if that's what he wanted, though, he never should have went to Philadelphia. He could have went to Arizona and got his 35 games easy.
Well, I think he went. But I think he went to Philadelphia. Yeah, I know. I get you. Excuse me. The reason why I think he went to Philadelphia, though, is because of the coach. Yeah. Excuse me. Hold on a second here, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because of AV, but what it tells me is, like, if you're worried about your 35 games, you went to the wrong team.
Right. But here's kind of what my thought process is. The first part of the season, I think York is going to go down into the AHL. Give him all that time. Give him all that responsibility and watch him shine. That, I think, will go long ways in building his confidence. That will go long ways in building his development, because we all know it takes defensemen longer to develop. And the reason why is because if you're the number one defenseman, you have to play in all those situations.
Right.
That's a lot to learn.
I understand what you're saying, and 99.9% of the time I'd be all about it. This York kid has just blown my mind.
Okay. All right. I was trying to give him that chance. You know what I mean? I don't want to rush him.
Yeah, well, you know what? Nobody wants to. That's why nobody's talking about it. But I just have a feeling he's going to come into camp and everybody's going to watch him and go,
it's going to be like, yeah, he's going to make it so you have to play him.
Yeah.
But
it's like when I saw him in junior, I was like, okay, he's going to be the second pairing guy and he's going to do really good in the U.S. team. The guy was the team.
Yeah, dude, look, I never saw a defenseman who's not even, he's only 5 foot, 11?
Yeah.
Right? 5'10", 5'11", right? That's all the taller he is, okay? But when I saw him play with the U.S. team and basically be the captain, and not just the captain of the team, but he was that team. That team's personality was Cam York.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Michigan and blows it up there too.
I never saw it coming when he got drafted, dude. Never saw. I knew he was going to be good, but I did not. He has taken things to level. That's why I say yes. I agree with you. If he comes in and he's really good, put him down in the AHL. But I just have a feeling that he's going to come in and everybody's going to be like, we can't put this guy down. He's freaking blowing everybody out. Like, I just have a feeling because I have that feeling because every time I've seen him, he's getting like, holy smokes. This is incredible. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I got you. Well, listen, Pearlo, man, we this has been a blast. Yeah. We could do this for like 16 hours, right? Easy.
Probably. Yeah,
right?
Probably.
Easy. At least talking about the Flyers anyway, right?
I could talk about anybody.
Right?
Hockey, as long as it's hockey.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, why don't you tell the folks here all the ways they can hear the Pearlo Wisdom Show and where they can follow you?
Yeah, well, what you just heard right now is something I do from 3 to 5 Eastern weekdays, and there's a lot of people watching, and we talk back and forth and have awesome conversation. Sometimes I get called things, and I'm cool with that. You want to come in and say whatever you got to say. This is hockey. You don't agree with me, you can tell me it in the way you want to tell me about it. That's what I love about it. I like having a live stream or a culture where people can just say whatever's on their mind. Yep. So I think if you're like that, if you're that type of person, I think you'd really enjoy it. And I'm part of the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and highly recommend you check that out. If you like all 4 major sports and teams in those all 4 major sports, then you're probably going to like it.
Yeah, I would have to say. And listen, I want to say this. First of all, a huge thank you goes out to Pearlo. Thank you very much for all that you do for SteelFlyers. Really appreciate that. That's the Hockey Writers Inc. salute goes out to that for sure. Man. So thank you very much for that. Also, thank you for sitting in for the writer extraordinaire. Hopefully, he'll be back after his fun little vacation out in the sun and the fun. We'll have all of Pearlo's links here on the show. Thank you very much for checking us out, folks. Just remember, this is the Hockey Writers Inc., and we're here to talk about all things Flyers. And check us out at www.steelflyers.com/link/the Hockey Writers Inc. We'll be back, and we'll be seeing you next time. Thank you all for joining us. Take care.